REKT podcast is brought to you by Honey Miner. Want to start mining, but never had the technical skills or time? Honey Miner is the answer. Honey Miner is a one-click install mining software that downloads directly to your computer and earns you Bitcoin. No more writing scripts or configurations. Just download the desktop app and start mining immediately. What are you waiting for? Go to honeyminer.com and start earning Bitcoin while you sleep today. That's honeyminer.com, on Twitter at GetHoneyMiner, and Telegram at t.me/honeyminer.
What's up? This is the Juice, and this is REKT.
Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast Episode 4. We have now done a month of these. I can't believe it's been that long already. So we have an awesome guest with us tonight, CryptOJSimpson. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. Big fan of all your guys' work, and I've listened to a couple of the shows now. It's good stuff.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being on. And as always, we have our other two guests. Chamber, how are you?
Not too bad. Doing pretty good now that we got everything rolling here.
Absolutely. And as semi-always, we have Cynthia with us tonight. How are you?
It was one time, dude. Come on.
Well, look, that's 25% of our episodes.
I'm great. I'm good.
Cool. Yeah. So, and I'm Bunchu Betts, same as I was last week, but we are very excited to have the Juice on the show tonight. So, we actually, we had a pretty good day today in the world of crypto. We're recording this on Tuesday. We've had a quite the day in the market, so everybody's happy. We're in good spirits and we're ready to rock and roll. So Juice, man, so we usually start this podcast off just get a little tidbit of how you came into crypto. What got you in? Where'd you start? How long have you been around? Things like that.
I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to start with a funny story first. So Chambers, this is about Chambers. When I first met him on Twitter,
I know where this is going.
Yeah. So Chambers tagged myself and a bunch of so I was the lowest follower count on it, but it was everybody had 20, 30, 40, 50,000 followers, and he made this post that said follow me, and you should because I'm awesome, and I've got a penchant for Canadian people. I don't know, they're just so nice. I enjoy them, and he had all his Canadian flags on there and everything. So I messaged him and I said, I will follow you, but if you tell anybody that it was because of this, I will literally kill you.
I took that to my grave.
Now you're telling everyone.
Yeah, now I'm telling the world. So congratulations.
I passed the test.
That's a fantastic story. Yo, did you get any other good follows out of that?
Shit,
or what?
Yeah, I got a lot of good follows.
That's impressive, actually. Look, I'm not sure how I feel about that, though, because every time I put out a Follow Friday on Twitter, there's always one or two people that after the list, they'll just add themselves on, I forgot to add them.
That shit drives me crazy, dude.
It's so funny.
No, what I did was more of a Follow Friday, but it was more all these people should be following me.
Should be following me.
Because I spit hot fire.
You're right.
You spit hot fire, huh?
Yeah. Right. Dylon.
The 5 greatest rappers of all time.
Yeah, right. But I mean, usually that works never. So I don't know what it was about Chambers, but for some reason I was like, whatever. He seems like a nice guy, so we'll give it a shot. So anyway, go ahead.
He is a confirmed nice guy. I could say I've now known him for a month, and he is pretty nice, and he is also Canadian. So those two things, if those two reasons are why you followed him, you did good.
Right. That's pretty much the basics. But anyway, now that I've properly railroaded your show format, I'll answer the question. So I got into crypto. I was working for a technology company at the time, and there were some guys who were really into Bitcoin. This was like 2013-ish. Stuff was kind of going crazy, and they decided to quit their jobs and start this mining op, and they were looking for some investors, and I invested a little bit in that and just kind of started getting the weekly payouts from their mining op and slowly reading more, and, I jumped in investing first, right? I didn't do any reading or anything, but I'm a libertarian and closer to an anarchist, so it was sort of a natural fit after I sort of did some reading. But
that's awesome. I also jumped in investing first. I was put my money somewhere first, ask questions, and do any research later. So
yeah.
So anyway, that's awesome, man. So again, we're really excited to have you on the show here. So next thing we typically go through is, all right, now we got a little taste of how you got into crypto. Now we want to hear, all right, when you got into crypto, just like you said, you jumped in first and asked questions later. Give us some of your best REKT stories since you've been in the space.
So I've got one. I've been thinking about it all day. The one that comes to mind was just this very last tip of the bull run. And I don't want to spoil it yet, but, I got wrecked. You didn't know where it was going. Anyway, so, I had this great plan lined out. I had all my charts. Everything was looking great. I had all my entries and exits planned. Everything was going great. And then we hit, 12K, and nothing made sense anymore, right? It was like, I kind of saw, 10K. That made sense. And then all the other coins that follow, I was day trading a lot of Ethereum and Litecoin at the time as well, and I had them kind of charted up too. But anyway, once it sort of reached that point, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was just like the euphoria was nuts. Nobody really knew what was going on. There wasn't really any more planned exits, at least for me anyway. It was like, this is just, we're flying by the seat of our pants at this point. So anyway, long story short, I was mostly trading. I was pretty much all liquid because I'd sold almost everything before we got to 13K. I mean, of all my coins, I kind of had, I didn't think there was going to be any more after that. So I was just kind of sitting on the sidelines and stuff till Litecoin got to about 125, 150. It was peaking up, starting to look kind of crazy. And I was momentum trading it, where basically you just set a stop buy after a resistance level, and then as soon as you reach the next resistance, you sell it before it gets too hairy, and those it was going parabolic at the time. So it would go from I think it went from 120 to 150 in an hour or something. I mean, it was just
crazy.
Yeah, it was just 30% gains, and it would swing wildly back and forth every day. So we'd get a lot of those chops in. It was just an awesome time. And I mean, it was honestly the most fun I ever had trading crypto. It was that run, just because the swings would go 30% down to 30% up, and you could just, make 60% profit in no time at all. But anyway, long story short, so I played that game until we got to about $200, and then I was like, yeah, that's got to be the top. I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to keep pressing my luck here, but. Anyway, as we know, it got to $300. So it's okay, all right, call me an idiot, but I'm gonna give it a shot. If we break 350, I will give it. I'm gonna go pretty much take a really big chunk of all this money I made and put it in. Why not? I mean, I'll put my sells at 400, and I'll just make a quick 15% or 20% or whatever that is. So this is gonna be great. Well, that day. That was a terrible day. So I set my stop buys for pretty much my entire bag at about 350. And I don't remember if you remember what happened when that day it went parabolic. It went to 400 within seconds. So my stop buys actually triggered at over 400. So I bought a bunch of Litecoin over 400, and then Coinbase decided to be super terrible all day. It was laggy, nothing worked.
Oh yeah.
Everything was screwed up. There was you couldn't even log in, and I'm just watching it go to 425. I was okay, I can get a good exit, but I couldn't because I couldn't log in.
Oh,
so later that night was when they went down for the big maintenance when they listed Bcash.
That was the same night?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my god.
So so they listed Bcash, and as soon as they listed Bcash, Litecoin dropped to $300,
Oh God.
Yeah. And like, I mean, this was like, and I was just stuck like bag holding at that point because like, oh, it's just gonna bounce, right? I think I wound up eventually selling it like 275 or something. But anyway, I had lost a very big portion of all that money I'd made that whole run in about 3 or 4 hours. So if you think like the slow bleeds, if you think the slow bleed's bad, like try doing that and then like having that happen at like 4 o'clock in the morning and then have to go to work.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So anyway, that's probably my most recent terrible REKT story, but
That's a crazy one. Oh,
Well, you know,
man.
Litecoin's at like $90 now, dude. So.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew when it started going down, like it's broken. We're done. It's over. It's time to get out.
Are you still bag holding that same Litecoin?
No, I dumped it at like 275. I took a huge loss on it, but it could have been way worse. But
Yeah,
Got
for
it.
sure.
but I mean, with buys
So-
over like 400, you know, so
Right,
Especially when
absolutely.
you're just sitting there watching it. There's
yeah,
nothing
that
you
was
can
the
do
worst
about
part,
it.
right?
That's
like
terrible.
right, it was agonizing.
I remember that. I remember that specific night because I mean, I don't know why, but that night reminds me of like Y2K. Where, where I'm sitting on the couch. I was sitting on the couch and like I was talking to my brother and we're trying. I'm still pretty new at this point. Like I'd been in since April, but I'd never seen anything quite like what the heck what was going on. And so I'd been reading all this about the Bcash is gonna flip Bitcoin and all this stuff, and it's gonna get listed, and I remember just sitting there watching the chart of Bitcoin Cash, and it just going from like, I don't know what it was. It was like maybe 1,500 or something, and it was just flying straight up in like 5 minutes. It was all of a sudden 2,800 or something, 2,500, and I'm like, I remember getting on the phone with my brother and pacing around because I'm like, what do I do with my
What's gonna
Bitcoin? I'm
happen?
like, are we getting flipped right now? Like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that was like the one ray of light in that whole story was that Bcash finally got unlocked from Coinbase, and I use GDAX. I know there's a lot of people who really hate on GDAX, so I kind of hate admitting that. But I had Bitcoin on Coinbase at the time of the fork. I had it in the vault on there because I was using
Right.
it intermittently for trading and stuff, and that had been locked up for like months on end. And I'm sure I would have sold it if I would have had my hands on it sooner. But right after it got listed on Coinbase, or Coinbase and GDAX, was when the price went like insane.
Yeah.
It would, and I dumped it like shortly after that to try to recoup some of my losses. But it was still just a terrible situation.
That's crazy.
Didn't it
man.
get to like $8,000 or something on Coinbase or something
oh, yeah.
silly?
For a minute, and then they took
Yeah.
trading offline because there was no liquidity.
It
So-
really got up that high?
Yeah,
I had
and
no idea.
that's when they took down all the trading altogether because there was just no liquidity on the market and people were just slamming the buy button for no good reason. And it just, like, I'm sure there was a couple of people who bought some $8,000 Bcash who were pretty upset.
I was told that it was the real Bitcoin, so I thought $8,000 was a good deal.
Maybe. Oh man, that's
Roger
pretty fun.
Ver
Hey,
said
you
this
know,
is the
if
real
you
Bitcoin.
if you bought it at $8,000, it's still more than Bitcoin's worth right now. So I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But that is crazy. That's a funny story because I totally remember that night specifically. I wanted to ask you a question because I'm not sure, how many people are new out there or newer and aren't familiar with kind of that style of trading that you were describing. So, like, is that basically like a momentum breakout style of trading that you're talking about?
Yeah, it was something that I had sort of developed. I mean, I've heard like people talk about it, but I sort of developed my own way to do it just out of necessity from like bag holding tops. Like after
Sure.
you get to a point where you feel like this is a pretty good top, you can sell and get out and have all your money, right? I mean, you can lock in those profits, and if it keeps going up, you can just kind of gauge. So it's really easy to do on GDAX books because you can see like big orders that are resistance, and once you watch the the books long enough, you can kind of understand, like, if I sell right before that big resistance hits and I ride it from the break of this last resistance, then I'll be okay. But most of the time what I'll do is, like, I'll set my limits right below the next resistant line, and then if that's not looking like it's going to hit, I'll just set a stop loss, like, right below where I bought.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really good, like in a bull run. You know, I can't do it now. You know, like
Right.
that's what I'm saying. Like when things are going nuts and you feel like, oh, I want to get out, but I don't want to miss out. That's really my favorite way to do it, because again, you don't necessarily miss out. And most of the time, if everything's working fine, you're also not risking a whole lot, because you just kind of set your stops like right below where you bought. And if you get out, you got to be happy with just getting out. It's like, okay, I just lost. That's okay. It's a small amount. I'm out. I lost it, you know. Just be happy with the loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for sure an interesting point for, you know, like you said, just be happy getting out, because everybody talks about how, you know, they don't want to miss the moon bag, but you got to be happy taking wins, I think, and as seen by people bag holding all the way back down.
Yeah,
so.
I don't like slow bleeds. You know, like you want to have money in your pocket to when that does happen. You can average down the whole way along. But if you're bag holding, you don't have that opportunity. So, like being
You
liquid.
Sure don't.
Chambers like, I know, man.
Right. I mean, that's how I sleep at night. You know what I mean? It's like I hate being and I only learned that from doing it. You know what I mean? From being in that position where you're holding the top and you're watching it go back down, and you're at the top again, and then you watch it go back down and you didn't get out. You know what I mean? I didn't learn it the first go around. We'll say it that way.
Yeah. That was gonna be my next question, is how did you kind of learn that style? Because it doesn't sound like you came from a finance or trading background, correct?
No.
So how did you kind of learn?
I heard somebody talking about it, whatever, you know, it's called momentum trading, and that's basically what it's based off of, or my trading style after, you know, like post bull run or during a bull run. But I heard somebody sort of talking about it, and it was like, oh, that sounds really great. Like I would just love to have cash in my pocket rather than coins, and then be able to buy in when it looks like it's going to go up, and then just cut your losses, right? I mean, like that sounds like everybody wins. If you made money already, why do you need to 5x? Why do you need to 20x? Like, if you made some money and you still want to keep playing, go ahead and keep playing, but you know, take some profit.
I learned that on the last little OCN bump. I bought some cheap OCN, and everybody was telling me it was going to like 1,000 satoshis, and I'm like you guys are. I think you guys are crazy. I've seen this before. I'm gonna sell some at like 400, maybe 4.25, and. You know, it went down. I think I picked some up the other day at like 95.
Yeah. Doesn't that feel nice? Like, it's so much better than losing.
Yeah.
As long as you're taking notes, Chamber, that's what we're here.
I will only make mistakes one time. I rarely make repeat mistakes.
Juice, we've been joking around since we started the podcast that this is the best way to do our own research, is just start a podcast and talk to people who know what the hell they're doing. So we just sit here and take notes.
So when are you? Yeah, maybe not this show, maybe next show. But yeah, that's one thing that, like, it's so difficult to do, is give tips to people, because you just kind of find what works for you. And it's not necessarily what works for everybody else. It's your level of involvement, how much you want to babysit the books, how much you want to really be actively involved in this thing. Because, I mean, one style is not right for everybody. And you'll find, like, during a bull run, you'll love sitting on the books. Like, it's great. Right. You know, it's exciting and cool, and there's a lot going on, and there's stuff. And then, you know, you got to find another way to trade in a different market, which I'm not going to lie, like, I haven't been trading this market hardly at all. Just because I don't understand it personally. I don't get the finer, whatever you want to call it, the finer movements of this kind of market. So I just buy low, and if it goes up some, sell it and move into long-term holds and be happy.
I'm into that. I think I'm the same way. I've been held back a lot on trading recently, but cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing your crypto stories, especially that the Y2K REKT, as I will call it. Cool. So then we like to move on into letting, the audience and the guests kind of get to know a little bit about you and your real life. So if you don't mind sharing a real life REKT story with us.
Okay, so this is a Debbie Downer experience. I kind of briefed you guys before. There is nothing redeemable. Yeah, there's nothing
We still
redeemable.
don't know. We still don't know quite what's coming. You just told
Right.
us, hey, this is gonna be dark and weird.
All right, so I'm a project manager by day. I work in the construction industry, and I had somebody get injured on one of my job sites. It was a really bad situation. He'd fallen off a higher level and he severed his spinal cord. It was it was a really serious situation, and there was all sorts of paperwork and stuff going on around this whole thing, as you can imagine, all the workers' comp and OSHA and just all this stuff going around. So I'm processing this paperwork and just kind of reading it over, and I'm reading the description of the accident, and it said, his all four extremities were paralyzed and he had an erect penis. So I was like, what? That's got to be some sort of a misprint, or something's terribly wrong with this. So I did a little bit of research, and apparently when you sever your spinal cord completely, it damages your nervous system and you pop a boner.
Wow.
So I'm thinking about this poor guy, right? Just totally paralyzed, conscious but can't move anything, right? Being wheeled off on a gurney, pitching a tent, and not even being able to have the common decency of folding his hands in front of it. Like, terrible,
Oh my God.
terrible, right?
I mean, how selfish of him.
I don't have any comment to add to this story, guys. I really
Well,
don't.
best story
that's
I've ever
actually
heard.
it's funny you say that, Cynthia, because I was talking to my wife about it, and it was like, this is just awful, this poor guy, and she goes, well, don't you think that was probably the least of his worries? And I said, well, clearly you've never had a boner in public.
Well, I mean,
That's a correct story. That's all I'll say.
I can't top it.
I mean, it wasn't. I was in the periphery of the situation, but it didn't directly relate to me. But it's the most REKT story I could think of.
That's a pretty REKT story. All I have to say is, Chamber, you taking notes or?
But I was gonna say, he had mentioned he was gonna go dark, and I have a dark REKT real life story, kind of in my back pocket, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to take it out and drop it on you guys, so I might as well now.
Okay.
Oh God, here we go.
So it's about a year ago. We normally rent a beachfront cottage during the summertime. Mm-hmm. My wife, my daughter. We just had a new girl, so we really couldn't do it this year. But last year, we rented out for a week. We have our own private beach. It's great. Real minimalistic. Got to have the Wi-Fi and everything, but that's about it. Air conditioning, obviously. But so we're about halfway through our week there, and we spent part of the day in the little town that where we're staying. Come back, I take an afternoon nap. It's about 3:00 in the afternoon. 4:00 rolls around, and my wife wakes me up, and she's like, "I think shit's going down outside, like on the beach." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm half awake. And I look out the balcony, and there's like a couple of police boats, a fire department boat, like right in front, maybe 100 feet out in front of my beach. And I'm like, oh, I think I know what's going on. I think somebody's in the water, and they're looking for him.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, exactly. I'm like, this is not good. I used to be a lifeguard too, so I'm like, my instincts were kind of kicking in. I'm like, I'm going to go in there, and the cops are waving me off. And, 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by. I'm like, oh, this is definitely not good. Like, if they haven't found the guy at this point, it's not looking good. And sure enough, about an hour later, and the cops keep pointing to kind of where my area is.
Uh-oh.
and the guy washes up on the beach of my this beach
my
prom.
God, of your place?
Of my
No.
place.
Oh,
No.
It was insane, and this is in the middle of the holiday.
This
so
is why
you know,
Chamber stays anonymous.
my my wife, drags my daughter into one of the rooms, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was the first time I saw like a fresh dead body. We'll call it. We've all been to funerals. We'll
Right.
call this a fresh dead body, and I'm kind of freaking out, but at the same time I'm like this is my private beach. I'm like, you're not ruining this for me.
oh, come on.
This guy's dead, Chamber.
Well, people die. It happens.
That's true.
Oh my
That's
God.
Circle of life. I only get this place for a week. So
Oh my God.
I mentally just kind of block it from my psyche for the next 4 days, and the next morning it's about 6:30 in the morning. I get up and I have my coffee, got my bathing suit on, and I'm looking into the water from the sands, and I'm like, not today. You're not taking this from me. And I just walk right in. I'm like, I'm going swimming. This is not stopping me. And we just moved on. I said my wife had I think it took her a couple of days to get used to it, but I don't think she went back in the water.
He was then he lathered himself in sunscreen and tanned right on the caution tape. Just
literally, like it was right there. I'm like, you're not stopping me from having fun, sir.
The chalk outline, he laid right in it.
Yeah, it was perfect.
I didn't know we were
my
telling
God.
stories about dead bodies. I've got a couple of those.
Oh,
You said dark. So I went dark.
so
But tis.
well, those are good real life REKT stories. So, OJ, thank you for sharing that as well. We're gonna move now. We're gonna try to go. We're gonna try to go back to being normal for a minute, and we're gonna transition into our news segment. This is a part of our podcast where we just kind of rant a little bit on the current events going on for the week since our last episode. We're actually going to, I guess I can announce this now, right, Chamber? We're actually going to think about doing a second podcast during the week. We're going to do this main one on Wednesdays release it on Wednesdays with a guest, and then we're going to do kind of just the three of us, maybe on some news that we may not get to on this show, and then some mailbag things. So send us your REKT stories if you have any dead bodies or erect paraplegic stories that you want to share with us. We will get some listener engagement, things like that. But let's go right into the news. Who wants to start? Chamber, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So big news. Obviously today we had big news with Bitcoin, but earlier, or I guess late last week or earlier this week, we had Coinbase mention that they're looking to add 5 crypto assets to their portfolio. Do
you own any of them?
I own 0 of them. So I got really excited. So I started looking. I'm like, okay, let's check what I got. Like the first one was Cardano. I'm like, nope, definitely don't own any Cardano. Basic attention token. Nope, none of those. Stellar. No. Zcash I sold on the last pump. So I did have that for a time.
Okay, but you took the OJ route and you sold it on the way up. You made some money, correct? Okay, so that's not terrible.
And then 0x was the last one, and I never touched that one either. So everybody was pumping except for me, and I'm just sitting here with my my low cap bags, waiting for a little bit of a pump.
You bought that Syscoin for 96 BTC.
Oh, I sure did. I'm really paying for that one, though. I'm really
your
paying
bag
for that
holding
one.
that. Awesome. That's a good one.
Did you get all of 11 of them?
All 11.
Nice.
They're great.
You bought all 11 Syscoin? That's awesome.
I think there was 11 sold at 96.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I
Goodness.
saw. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We were talking about that last week, but we weren't actually sure at the time if it was full coins or if it was just fractions, but that's crazy. I also saw, I don't know if this was one of our news stories, but that Coinbase can now accept or sell securities tokens. That's not one of our stories, right?
So while we were on this podcast, another news story came out, like literally an hour ago maybe, saying Coinbase says it was wrong about SEC approval of acquisitions and being able to list security tokens.
Do you hear that? That is breaking news.
Dun, dun, dun.
You heard it here. By the time they hear it tomorrow morning, who knows? But it is pretty late, so maybe not. But yeah, it just came through on my little alerts. And it says Coinbase said it got the green light, and now they say they never got such an endorsement.
That's
so
crazy.
I don't know what the whole story is, but it was just this little blip that came across.
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
You guys can buy some security tokens now. No KYC, nothing.
Well, I thought the funniest part of that was when I saw the meme about Ripple and people saying, "Oh yay, Coinbase can list security tokens," and then it was the other button that was the Ripple fan saying Ripple's not a security, and they kind of would have to choose a side. So that's a good one. Cool. Why don't we go to OJ?
So the Major League Baseball, MLB, as we all know it, partnered with a company called Lucid Site to make a collectible game or a collectible trading platform on Ethereum, like CryptoKitties, but with baseball cards. And they're not exactly baseball cards, though. They're like, they describe them as moments, but it doesn't really go on to elaborate. It talks about it'll catch like moments of the game, and you can trade those. So I don't know if it's going to be like videos or just like, so-and-so made this amazing catch or whatever, but I think that's so cool. I just remember as a kid, like, collecting the newspapers when, like, Mark McGwire broke the home run record, right? I mean, I still got that one. It was just so many cool moments like that you could capture and, trade on the blockchain as, like, this asset that, I mean, I can just see it because there's already baseball card nuts out there. So, I mean, it makes sense. It's a natural transition. It's really cool.
So this story makes me very, very, very angry, and
oh god,
the reason being, I don't know, Cynthia, if you were on, we were talking about this before the show. I was actually in talks with somebody at Major League Baseball about licensing MLB things for crypto collectible project, and I got beat to the damn punch.
No freaking way.
I was literally, I mean, probably
REKT.
That is wrecked as fuck. I'm so mad.
It seriously is, dude. That sucks.
My dad actually sent me this story the other day, and I lost my shit. It was pretty funny, but it's funny that you say that there are going to be moments and stuff, because when we were looking into the project that we were thinking about, Topps, the actual baseball card company, they have apparently exclusive rights to like digital baseball cards through MLB. So that's my guess, is that's probably why they had to do something a little different than actual baseball cards. But it's super interesting to me, because I was, we're Pepe DAP supporters, so we think we're into the digital collectibles. We think it's cool. So this was something that I had been thinking about for a while. Like, you could take this to sports cards and things like that. And the funniest thing to me was when we actually first started like looking into the project, I found somebody that I went through like all these channels to get to somebody important at MLB, and they passed me along to somebody who was already. So they must have already either been working with this company or already looking, but basically they had somebody dedicated to crypto already,
Really?
which
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, which I thought was really crazy. I was like, wow, all right, so maybe we're onto something here, and then beat to the punch.
You know which one I'd love to see, like a moment? Like those hologram cards where you twist it one way and it shows one image, and you twist it the other way, it shows another image. I'd love to see the transition image of Sammy Sosa from his rookie year.
I just spit out my wine.
Yeah, that's messed up.
That man, have you guys seen recent pictures of that guy?
Dude,
Yes.
I couldn't believe
It's
it.
super creepy.
Oh my God!
It honestly made me sad.
It's
Yeah.
worse than like a Michael Jackson
It is.
transition. It's
It's
crazy.
much worse.
He's got like his lips are like purple. I don't. It's crazy. He looks nuts.
It's bananas, but I would absolutely collect that card.
I was
That would
gonna. You led with the best possible one, because I was gonna say I'd like to see Randy Johnson exploding the bird.
Oh, that's a great one too. That's a
that
great
would
one
be
too.
Or
We
Pete
need to.
Rose
All
in a
right, so
casino.
maybe we can have user submitted moments as part of this. We can suggest this. The one criticism I think I saw of this, I saw somebody's thread. I wish I knew whose handle it was, but it interested me. Is that like it's not a very decentralized project, as in like the MLB kind of has control over what they're putting out and stuff. So it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how they treat the project, like in terms of what people in crypto are interested in and what they actually put out. So I'm excited to see it though, because
Yeah, that crosses over into the bigger debate, though, right? Like, I believe that decentralization is good, but not all things need to be decentralized. Like, a lot of
totally.
things are way
Absolutely.
better centralized.
Yeah.
So
Right.
like we can't just say it's better because it's decentralized. I mean, the MLB has rights to those images, and that's their property. So they should be able to have full say of what happens to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a good point, because not everything should be decentralized is also a very good point. But cool, awesome. So that's a good story. One that was interesting to me personally, obviously, because I got wrecked. So Cynthia, we'll kick it over to you.
My news story is not super new news, but it's Ross Ulbricht. I guess pretty much everybody knows who he is, but the guy that started Silk Road on the dark web.
Mm-hmm.
He was denied the petition to review his life sentence last week, and he has 2 life sentences plus 40 years.
That's bananas.
Crazy.
It's absolutely
It's terrible.
incredible to me. It's absolutely terrible. Just he's a lot of these guys are libertarians, and all for
Yeah. Well, I saw that online. There was a change.org petition to get because they denied
got a lot
even a
of
review of the
signatures.
case, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The Libertarian Party actually came out a couple of days ago
Yeah, I
urging
saw that.
Trump to pardon him.
Ooh.
And
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and there actually came out. I think it was just a few days ago. Oh, actually, it was today. That Trump was being asked to grant clemency because I think some of the other people in the case are coming or had just been extradited to the U.S. for trial.
But I actually don't know the case all that well.
You should learn.
You should
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's fascinating.
But
It honestly
I
is.
just have trouble understanding. I mean, I get the gist of it, but I just don't understand why the consecutive life sentences for basically running a website.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a marketplace that was a majority of things that were sold there were drugs. But yeah, it's
Yeah, but who hasn't sold
absolutely,
drugs?
absolutely incredible to me that
I mean,
he would get. I mean, he's gotten a worse punishment than violent criminals.
Yeah,
Murderers,
Yeah, like O.J.
kidnappers.
Simpson.
Yeah, like O.J.
Right.
Simpson.
Exactly.
Well, the thing about it that's so crazy, if you do a little bit of research into it, basically the main FBI agents who were researching this thing were crooked as hell. Like they had.
Yeah.
They were actually found guilty of
Yes.
a lot of shady
Really?
shit.
Yes, like they had.
Was one
they
of the FBI agents on the banking on Bitcoin doc?
I
'Cause
don't remember
they
that.
focused
doc.
on one FBI agent that took care of it. I would maybe if he was one of them that was.
Yeah,
crooked.
so basically what had
think you're
happened
right.
was, they had extorted Ross for they said that they had hacked the user base and the information that they had gathered through, even Edward Snowden talked about this later, that there was like corroboration behind or with outside governments, which is technically illegal without a warrant and all this stuff. So like the whole process was completely illegal that busted him. And the information that they gathered from that, the FBI agents,
those illegal actions,
yeah, those FBI agents used that data, like members of the community, like their addresses and stuff. They showed them to him and said, "We're going to turn this over to the FBI if you don't pay us like 100,000 Bitcoin," or I don't even remember what the exact numbers were, but it was a ton. So they extorted him for all this money, but they also like linked it, those FBI agents, to like, I don't remember the name of the exchange, but they also, like, one of them was a board member on an exchange and like laundered all that money through that exchange without paying taxes on it and stuff. And these were the guys who were in charge of this investigation. You know, so like, how can you say,
it's a tragedy.
Yeah, like, how can you say he got a fair trial? It's impossible.
Yeah, it's crazy. Chamber and I are big podcast guys, so I listen to a bunch of the other podcasts out there. Peter McCormick, who does what Bitcoin did, he actually had his mother on and did a really awesome interview with her. It was like an hour and change long, and it was really good. If you haven't listened to it, we can definitely link it in our show notes. And shout out to Peter, because it was an awesome episode. I remember listening to it, and I was fascinated by the whole thing. So we'll definitely, anybody else who wants to hear kind of a first-hand view, I mean, it doesn't get much closer to it than his mother, so it's a pretty good interview. But yeah, that's a crazy story also.
And
so
one thing that I also learned today when I was researching it that I did not know is that Roger Ver has donated a ridiculous amount of money to the Free Ross campaign, and has like gone to and spoken in front of committees and done all this public speaking to try and get some justice for Ross. So Roger Ver gets, some jokes on our podcast, but what he's doing is really cool.
Well, that's because he sold all of his Bitcoin Cash at $8,000 to me, to Chamber.
That's what's so tough about Roger Ver, though, right? I mean, like, I love Roger Ver for everything except for his Bcash. Like, he was so awesome to have on our team and everything when he was cool. And not only that, he's like a really cool guy like that as far as libertarian principles and standing up for what's right in that manner.
Yeah,
so, like,
absolutely.
But,
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So that's a good story. We've got a couple of good serious stories on the podcast today.
Maybe we should put the change.org thing in the show notes,
for sure. We can definitely do that.
We should do that.
Awesome. So my story real quick. We're running low on time a little. I want to get to the rest of our segments. A U.S. election probe implicated Bitcoin, and the reaction was swift. So this story has to do with the Russians and the election and using Bitcoin. I'm going to let Cynthia just say a couple things she said she wanted to say on it quick, and then I'll make a point on it too.
Well, I was just $400 million in illegal contributions, tax-free, But I didn't know
in Bitcoin, right? This is how they infiltrated the.
I didn't
election.
know it was in Bitcoin. Was it?
That was my point. Is that
it should have been in Monero. I mean, come on, guys.
Well, that's exactly right. So my buddy, I have a buddy who's really into politics and stuff, and he sent me this story and was like, "Wait a second. So how?" And he is not into crypto, so we would call him a no-coiner. So he's like, "What?" He's like, "Well, so much for your Bitcoin anonymity," and I'm like, dude, like, these people are dumb. Like, Bitcoin's probably the least anonymous.
Yeah, it's anonymous to an extent, as anonymous as you make it to be, but I mean, it's very easy to figure out,
Right, if you know somebody's wallet address, right, if you know somebody's wallet address, it's pretty much the least anonymous thing you can do.
Absolutely.
And we all know that Trump didn't write down his seed phrases too, right?
No.
Like, that's 100%.
Do you think Trump...
Write it down, Donald. Write it down.
Do you think he's got his 12-word MetaMask seed saved somewhere?
But it wasn't even Trump who got it. It was Hillary who pocketed the money.
Well, that's
Crooked
because Trump,
Hillary.
that's because Trump lost his seed. He lost his seed phrase. So anyway, just I think the key point of that to me was like just the anonymity part.
Trump and Hillary share a wallet. They share a wallet.
They share a wallet.
Corners thought Bitcoin was anonymous.
Yeah, so that was the big takeaway for me. But anyway, awesome. So that's our news segment. So this is part where we kick it over to Chamber to give the guest a little quiz on just how wrecked they might be for the next bull run. Well, we'll see how you do. I think you shortened the quiz. You shortened the quiz this week, right?
I did. Yeah, we're gonna bring it down to 5 questions because I feel that really gets to the meat of the issue.
Sure.
So first question, your portfolio currently, is it more than 75% alts?
No.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Make a note of that.
So we oohed and awed at that because when the first couple episodes the question was 85% alts, and the first 3 guests were pretty close, they said, but it was still a no. So we lowered the percentage. So we're trying to find the percentage where people might start to say yes.
Well, who do we got next week? Oh, I think yeah, he'll definitely have a big bag of alts.
Guys, you're not supposed to say who we have next week.
Well, you got to listen to hear the
True.
Yeah,
so that's true. Good. If you're listening, good job.
If you're still listening at this point, you got through the real life wrecks that were pretty interesting.
We got pretty dark.
All the darkness.
Great job. Give us a 5-star review. That'd be terrific.
All right, question 2.
Question 2. Do you use more than 3 times leverage on BitMEX?
I do not use BitMEX at all.
We're getting some smart people.
Ever?
See, we have some smart guests.
I've used it like once just to see what it's like, but that's not for me. Like, it really is like 10-20% in a day not enough to get your jollies off? Like, what world are we living in that you have to times that by 50? Like,
I don't get out of bed for anything less than a 10x.
Right? Like, I don't get it. I mean, I get some people are really good at it, and if they are, fantastic. But no, that's not for me.
I think that's an interesting takeaway that not one guest we've had so far in our first 4 episodes has said yes.
I don't think so. Yeah.
And I think that at least 3 out of the 4 have said they don't mex at all.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So
everybody. Oh, speaking of Mex, though, guys, did you guys just see the guy that came in our Telegram group, the REKT podcast group?
Yeah, and he had that bot, and he was kicking ass, and I won his bot.
Holy shit bot? Yeah, it was amazing, and he was using ton of leverage, and he was killing it.
If you think I didn't, for those of you who aren't in our Telegram channel yet, you should join our Telegram. We do a lot of just bunch of shit talking back and forth. We're going to start doing some giveaways in there. We're going to start doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I think it's t.me /rekt_podcast. I'll put it in the show notes. But if you think I didn't message that guy and ask him about his bot, you're crazy because I slid right into those DMs.
Yeah, so shout out to the guy with the holy shit bot because that was amazing.
Anyway, question 3.
All right, question 3. Juice, do you own either Verge or Tron?
Not currently. I've played with Verge before, but I've never owned any Tron.
Haven't we all?
I used it all. I didn't sell it.
That's for Tron. Okay, that's good.
So give him a half point for that.
All right, question 4. Do you own a hardware wallet?
Yes, several.
Good, several. All right, I only got one, and it's pretty much empty, so I'm going to wait till that one goes right.
It's a paperweight.
It is a paperweight. Okay, question 5.
When he's not smoking it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. Last week, if you didn't listen to last week, we decided that his hardware wallet looks a lot like his vape, so...
Yeah, the box that they both come in. Shout out to PAX Vapes. They're quite good.
Be a sponsor.
Look very similar to the Ledger Nano S box, by the way.
Awesome.
All right, question. Oh, that was it. So only 5 questions this week. That's right. So that's
what
pretty.
Did you get?
No. Sorry. I was only at 4. Pardon me. Question 5. Do you is Cryptopia currently in your top 3 favorite exchanges?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I use it regularly.
That's where you,
So I guess maybe it's not in
I
the
love
top
going-
3 that I use, but it's
no. What are your top 3?
I like Bittrex a lot, but I
Mm-hmm.
also use a lot of obscure ones. I like, when I'm trading more active, I will use GDAX, shame on me, whatever, but also
Coinbase Pro now.
yeah, CryptOBridge. I'm a big fan of CryptOBridge.
Everybody's been talking about CryptOBridge. I signed up
Yeah.
a couple episodes ago after, I forget who mentioned it. Maybe El Chapo or maybe
Yeah.
even
Well,
No,
Okay.
it was Coin Yeezy.
Was it Yeezy?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple
But,
of projects that I'm into that are only on stocks.exchange too, which kind of sucks. It's not a great exchange, but I don't know. I'm sort of equal opportunity. If I had to say top 3 though, that's kind of tough. Probably Bittrex, GDAX, and CryptOBridge.
CryptOBridge. Yeah, well, those are good. That's what I like, dumpster diving in Cryptopia though. I mean, that's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, I'm there with you, but
I
I don't
love
like
getting dirty
it.
in there.
I don't like it. It just
All right, so my last question is really more of a, once you get that FU money,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to be that one thing that you want? A lot of people talking Lambos, that kind of thing. But what does the juice need?
It's funny because I've talked about this one, and my wife and I have an amount that if I get to, I can buy whatever I want, up to $100,000. And I've decided
God.
that that's a Tesla. Like I want a Tesla so bad. I had a Nissan Leaf, and it's just like a wiener electric car. It's not exactly cool, but it was an electric car, and I was into it. It was really awesome. But yeah, like a Tesla would be just awesome. But a nice one's like 80, 90 grand. It's not exactly in the budget, so I don't know.
That's good.
Alright.
We've
That is a
actually
good
asked.
one.
So we've actually asked every guest. It used to be a Lambo-based question, but everybody has said different cars, so that we've kind of changed it to kind of that
like
sort
what
of question.
What my garage is going to look like in 10 years.
Right.
No, well, I mean, I don't know, and maybe Cynthia would have a different take on this, but maybe that's just a male thing. Have you had only male
I'm
guests?
probably not a car.
No,
I
me
probably
neither.
wouldn't buy a car either.
Yeah.
Cynthia,
I
what
would.
would
I
you
would.
would? So Cynthia would,
Oh, God.
and we wouldn't.
Are you kidding? My cars are a Range Rover, like a really top of the line Range Rover Sport, and Mercedes G-Wagon.
All right,
so
yeah,
you're a car lady.
Those
There you go.
G-Wagons are
Very
nice.
much so.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's the rec test. How do you do? Did he get? What was the final score there?
You got perfect, 5 for 5. We got some smart people. So we got
Wow.
less than 75% alts. Never uses BitMEX. Oh no, you did say you had, but you don't currently own Verge, so that's good. You dabbled in it earlier. Like we all,
a little
like we
bit in
all
the
did.
80s. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
enjoy
exactly.
it
It's like, yeah, we all did some crazy
there's
stuff
videos.
in the 80s.
There's
We all did.
videos out there somewhere. Of that.
And
that's funny.
Cryptopia isn't in your top 3, so you're solid.
though. Cool.
All right, next segment. We call this The Purge, given to us by Whale Report's editor at Father of Bags. So this segment is basically you can purge. It's legal for 24 hours for you to just destroy any project out there with no consequences. What would it be? But you cannot pick anything that has already been picked. So we've already had Verge, Tron, and last week was Ripple from Crypto Christopher Walken. What would you purge?
Okay, so you named. I was gonna do Ripple, but if I had to take my next pick, it would be Ethereum.
Wow.
What?
Shots fired.
That's
Shots
going to
fired.
ruffle
You're
some
gonna lose
feathers.
some followers over
Yeah,
that.
no,
Jeff.
that's all right. I've mined Ethereum for a long time. I'm a big, I'm actually still bullish on Ethereum. I think it's a decent coin, but the fact is, like, it's not as efficient as these new protocols coming in. But just because it has the top seat at the table, that's what everybody's using. So it's not the best tech.
Sure.
It's just the most liquid. So people are overlooking all these really cool projects that are doing the same thing as Ethereum better, just because it's not Ethereum, and that's a detriment to the community.
That seems pretty reasonable. Now, do
good
we
point.
also take all the ERC20 tokens that go along with that? Because my bags are fucked.
So that's the cool thing, right? Is like there's so many of these Ethereum-like projects that are coming out that it can onboard those projects, so they could go to another platform.
All right. I'm down.
Yeah, there's like all these cool layer 2 solutions that are coming out that'll help other projects move off of Ethereum, and I think that's going to happen a lot in the future, especially as gas prices are insane. I mean, imagine like trying to use a utility token for its actual use of like buying something that's $5 and then paying $7 in gas to use it. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
I think,
true.
and I think that's another big thing that's actually holding back mass adoption is just how impractical it is to use those utility tokens. So I don't know, but of course my first pick would have been Ripple.
Interesting. So speaking of Ripple, I did something REKT today, and I bought some Ripple today. So I am officially wrecked, but I think it looked. Hey, look, the chart looked good, and I picked a little bit up. I'm expecting it to kind of follow those big caps to follow suit of what happened today. So I picked that one.
There's a lot of green right now. It's at 51 cents. I don't know where you bought it, but.
I traded the Bitcoin pair, so hopefully I'll be okay there. But I bought the red on the Bitcoin pair, so hopefully that we'll check it on that one next week to see if
it's still in the red right now.
See if Bunch is wrecked
on the Bitcoin pairing.
Lovely, sweet. Okay, awesome. So that's going to be a controversial one. I like that. That is good. REKT Fantasy League. So this is where you get to kind of pick 3 projects over the next 3 months or so that you think are going to perform well or that you like. So what do you got for us?
So the top 3, oh gosh, that's kind of tough. The first, so everybody who really kind of knows me knows that I'm huge into Vertcoin. So I'm actually, I think Vertcoin's like just about bottomed out. So if you're looking, short term, something like that, it can't go anywhere but up from here in my mind. So like that would be an obvious first choice.
I got so wrecked on Vertcoin when I like back in when it was free falling. I bought some and tried to knife catch it, and that didn't work out well.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly work out. It is what it is. I don't know, but in addition to that, my next 2 picks would probably be like obscure shitcoins, and I don't want to exactly lead people into shitcoins, so don't. As a general rule, don't buy just because I'm saying this. It's kind of my preface here.
Right. This is the part of the podcast that is not financial advice.
Right. So I just want to preface it with
you are listening to REKT.
Yes,
so,
this podcast is called REKT. So.
Right. So from there, I'd probably say I like two coins that are pretty close to Ethereum. They're Ethereum based, but they're doing stuff a lot cooler. So I'd say Akroma would be my number 2, and then Pearl's number 3. They're both doing really similar things, but they're kind of takeoffs on Ethereum, but doing it better, in my opinion.
Interesting. So those are smaller projects that are doing things like that. What are your thoughts on some of the bigger kind of platforms out there? I know Cynthia's an EOS holder, so like stuff like that where they're trying, but those are obviously much bigger cap coins.
I'm not real confident in anything that's like over $2 billion market cap right now. That besides like the 2 larger caps that I would feel good about are Bitcoin and Monero. But if you're asking me what's gonna has the most upside potential, it wouldn't be one of those. But whereas like Bitcoin, even if it did go nuts and exceed our wildest dreams right now, it'd be like a 2x, right? I mean, or a 3x or something.
Right.
So like in the same with Monero, it'd be like a 2x or a 3x. So that's why I kind of listed those other ones that might be like 20x potential. Who knows? But but like EOS, and I like Dragon Chain a little bit. That's kind of the same thing. I have a little bit of Dragon, but like EOS, I don't get it. It doesn't. It's already so expensive. I don't know that it's got much more upside, but I could be totally wrong. I mean, it's an innovative platform, but we've also got like Tezos that's actually getting pretty close to mainnet. There's going to be a lot of players in that kind of upper end space. I don't really know how it's going to shake out.
I see Cynthia's face when you mentioned EOS. Like she just wants to jump down our throats.
I think you're wrong, OJ.
You know what? Here's the thing. Like, I am wrong 99.9% of the time. So, like, that's why I don't like giving advice. Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm normally wrong, if I had to say. Like, usually when I'm right, I'm really right. And when I'm wrong, I'm horribly wrong.
Really wrong.
You're right.
Yeah. So there's not
man.
a whole lot of middle ground.
Cool. Well, that gets us through our typical show segments. So this is kind of where we, let you kind of any final thoughts or projects you're working on. Where can people find you? Plug yourself, brother.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to shill. You can follow me on Twitter at CryptOJSimpson. I generally, if I'm working on something, I'll post about it there. I post a lot of reviews and blogs and stuff like that, so check it out. I like to think I'm pretty friendly. Go ahead and post something on my tweets, and we'll have a back and forth, and it'll be fun. It's always a good time, but.
Are your DMs open for fellow Canadians like Chamber to try to get you to follow them?
That's risky
Actually,
business
exclusively
right
Canadians is what basically I get. But anyway,
That's
yeah.
a new filter.
Yeah.
OJ was actually one of my first Twitter friends. Not like friend. He probably was like, "Who is this chick?" But like, we would talk back and forth on.
Yeah.
Stuff, so
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
OJ's a nice guy.
We had a couple where we were like firing shots too.
Yeah,
Like
we were.
just
yeah, good time.
shaking things up.
That's awesome. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun for sure. I probably laughed the hardest on this episode that I had. Yes.
Yeah.
At your
And it was
real
our
life
darkest,
story.
too,
It was definitely
so.
darkest.
By far the darkest.
We've hit all the emotions today, so that's good. But everybody else out there, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your grandma, turn your grandma's phone on and do it for her. Leave us 5-star reviews. Send us your best REKT stories. We're gonna start reading them on air with like mailbags and stuff like that. Follow us on Twitter at REKT_podcast, on Telegram at t.me/REKT_podcast, and we'll end it with our BitMEX REKT of the week. This one comes from today, actually, a liquidated short on Bitcoin for 10 million contracts at 6,861. So that was, that guy was wrecked in
Brutal. I saw that one too. God.
Dude, that one had like 140 retweets in like 5 minutes. That guy was wrecked. Think of where it went to today. At 68.61, he throws in that short. He was over in matter of seconds, probably.
God, it pumped so fast today.
Yeah.
But still not as wrecked as when you subscribed your grandma to the REKT podcast and she heard fake OJ talk about a paralyzed man pitching a tent on a gurney.
That's totally right. So sorry.
I'm sorry, Gam
Sorry,
Gam.
Grandma.
Sorry, Grandma. That's awesome, man. Well, again, thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for listening. Yeah, thanks for everybody listening, and until next time, don't get wrecked, and that is financial advice.